podcast, I prefer everybody turns their ringer all the way up and keeps their phone right here next to it, just so we can know what's going on. Maybe some sound effects. I used to have a sound effect board. I don't have it anymore, so now I rely on you to have contact with the outside world to make my show better.
Where you're fully.
Gotcha.
No pressure. No pressure at all.
Okay.
All right.
Try.
So this is the scoop here. I'm going to get into my host voice.
Okay.
Hope you're ready for it.
Here's I'm going to be. So.
Hi. Welcome. What's up? Welcome to Start the Beat. As you know, this is a podcast, and as you know, my name is Brian. But what you may or may not know, depending on if you read the description of this episode before clicking play, I am here joined today by 4/4 of Pittsburgh band, rock and roll, music, whatever you want to call yourselves. There's guitar, bass, drums, vocals. Who the hell cares anymore? Creedmoors. Welcome to the internet. Welcome to the show. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I told you I don't have the sound effects anymore, so you got to applaud for yourselves.
For ourselves then.
Woo! They were kind enough to bring me a 7-inch little record here that has a few songs on it. Pretty cool. I guess we could start with talking about this thing. Who wants to take the lead on this?
Joe?
Well,
Joe.
that is actually that the actual band isn't on it, unfortunately, but that's the first release. That kind of grew out of a one of those ideas during the pandemic. And you talk with friends and be like, when this thing is over, we're going to do this thing. It's going to be great. And I was messaging back and forth with Michael Shanley of Igor Records saying, well, when this is over, we'll do a single. And it was just like talk, you know? And then the pandemic wound down and he messages me one day. He says, where's your song? I said, oh, are we doing this? Yeah, we're doing it. Okay. Here you go. And that's how it came about. And when he finally put it out, I didn't want him to release a record using his resources and not promote it or have a band. So, and I've been wanting to put a band together forever anyway. So I called everybody else and they all said yes. And now it's way less of a solo thing and it's a real band, which is what I wanted, really.
Well,
so.
That's super cool. So then I'm to understand that you played all the instruments on the 7-inch
on that one song. It's a split 7-inch actually with another group called Pink Marimbas.
That makes sense.
Which Mike Shanley is also in. And so one song is Creedmoors.
Got it.
And the other is Pink Marimbas.
Very, very cool.
Yes.
Got it. So your friend bullied you into starting a band, basically.
More or less. No. No, I didn't forget about it, but he was like, okay, we're really, really going to do this. I said, okay. And a friend of mine, her niece had just been born and her name was Rose. And she was like, you should write like a sort of, 60s British invasion kind of song, like Georgie Girl. I was like, okay. And that became the song. I just kind of like wrote it almost to order at her suggestion. And then Mike Shanley wanting a song. So I figured if this is a one-off, then I gave him like one song meant for it,
Yeah. So now here we are. We have a room full of people, musicians.
Yes.
This is my first podcast. I apologize.
That's easy for you to say.
I've never talked out loud before. Musicians.
Yeah.
And now we are doing this band. You're playing shows. You probably are writing more songs unless you're playing one song sets.
No,
you have
not.
You have more songs?
Way more songs.
At least 3.
Okay, there's at least 3. Perfect.
And there's more than one writer in the band now, which is great. So it's a collaborative thing. It's not just me telling everybody what to do.
So, now let's turn my attention to the other side of the table over here. So what's the Spider-Man origin story here? How do you all know this delinquent? How did you all individually get involved in this band?
I have played just alongside Joe with like other bands. Yeah, I mean, I've played with some of his bands, so I've just known him over the years, and also same with Aaron. I've had a band that's played with one of your bands, so Mike's the only one I don't think I've.
He's the wild card.
We don't know where he came from.
I don't know him.
My ship landed on this planet a few years ago. So yeah, I met Joe on the internet. The internet. And during the pandemic, when we had these false senses of hope, like it's over, it's great, we got this shot, we can go out and do stuff. I wanted to play a show, so I put together a band, and it was Joe on the drums, myself on bass, and a friend of ours on guitar, actually a photographer who took our pictures a few weeks ago. And we just went out and played a bunch of cover songs. And it was a one-off, one-time only band. We played in a backyard barbecue, just chill. And that's how I got to meet him. And when it was all done, I said, let me know if you ever want to do anything else. I didn't know it was a binding agreement.
Sorry.
Well, it's kind of fun, you know, this whole conversation can kind of start on the idea of just kind of putting yourself out there, letting things happen, and just kind of going with it. I feel like that's kind of where we're at here, just kind of having a attitude that's kind of just ready to, you know, step up to the challenge.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I guess that may be a little bit dramatic way to put it, but, you know, step up to a challenge of doing something unexpected. And now you have this band and you're playing all these shows.
Yeah.
Like, how long has it even been a band? I feel like I've only seen your name starting to pop up on flyers over the past, like since the start of this year, or maybe late last year.
Really, about a year and a month. Our first show was at was it the end of April or March last year? I can't remember.
End of April.
End of April. And that was the show, that was the release show for that single. And due to some emergencies in my basement, we weren't able to go down there and practice until about a month before. So we just learned 10 songs real quick. Yeah. And I'd liked playing with everybody. I'd hoped to keep it going. But after that show, we were like, it was a government center. We were in that little green room in the back, the little storage area. And we were just like, we're a band. All right. You know, this was good. It worked. So, but, and, you know, reaching out to everybody individually, I knew them all. Like, I'd played with Mike and I'd seen Aaron and Tammy's bands plenty of times. I knew they'd show up. You know what I mean? That's an important thing, is like, I know that they know how to be in bands and how to do, you know, just practice and bring your gear and be at the show. And you get a lot of people in a room to do that, then you're most of the way there.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing, especially over the years. I know all of us here are still in our 20s, and we're really, you know, looking forward to the future of life. But we've been doing the music thing here for a while, and it's funny how hard it is sometimes to just find somebody that can do those basic things. You know, we've all played in other bands before, and you know, bands come, bands go, some end because whatever. But you know, being able to find a handful of people, a table full of other adults that are, you know, able somehow to have a steady life and still be willing to do this dumb stuff is very lucky. So,
exactly.
Good job.
Good job for them. I mean, yeah, there was you know, you really don't know how it's going to be until everybody's in the room. And I think you all met Mike really for the first time at that first practice, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Right.
And it went fine.
I remember you said, "Oh, hi, how you doing?" And you came downstairs and said, "Who are you?"
I did?
Yeah, because you're like, "Hi, I don't know you." And I was like,
it was like the monkeys, kind of getting them in the room for the
"My
first
name's
time.
Dave."
Yeah. It's like you're a band now with a TV show.
Dave's not here.
Yeah.
I know. Am I on a reality show, Joe? What is happening? What am I being set up with?
How did you meet Joe?
So I actually played, my first Pittsburgh band was the Love Letters with Mike Shanley. And so
Who put out our record.
who put out the record. So, and I had, when the Love Letters played shows, we would do shows with, I think, your band, Joe.
Yeah, we did Neighbors and City Steps.
Yep, we did a few shows with them. So I met Joe through the Love Letters. And then after the Love Letters, I was in Go Go Gidget, which was my bandmate Jen had played in a band with Joe. So it was like every band I was in, there was like a 3 degrees of separation from Joe Turowski. And then later on, I found out, once I got to know Joe, that he and I grew up in the same area in Ohio. We're both from the Ohio Valley. So
I knew a lot of the same people.
People, St. Clairsville, Wheeling, both born in Wheeling, West Virginia. So I was like, had a connection there. So when he asked me to join the band, it was perfect because it was like post-pandemic, and I hadn't played with Go-Go Gadget for a few years, so I hadn't played rock music in a while. Hadn't touched my kit since like 2019, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna get back into that. That sounds like a plan. Let's do something different." So,
And Go-Go Gadget's back together, and
And
I'm
Go-Go
in
Gadget's
Go-Go
back.
Gadget with Aaron and Jen.
yeah,
Playing bass. I'm just in the back.
Yeah,
playing
we
bass.
were-
There's only 12 musicians in the
We-
entire
Yeah.
city.
City.
We just
Yeah.
trade back and
Yeah.
forth.
Yeah, I feel like the way that you're all describing your band feels like different forms of like Pokemon.
Interesting.
Yeah, no,
Yeah, it's just like there's different stages throughout the years.
it's true. But I think now though,
But this is the strongest.
I would
This is
hope-
the
I hope
strongest
we'll see.
Pokemon, right?
But insofar as I personally have any goals, I mean, and doing this, I at least wanted to getting that single out and having Mike Shanley put it out. That was like a step, and there wasn't really, there's no end game. It's just like, okay, well, what's the next thing? Get the band together, play shows. It's like you'd build a rocket in science class and go out and see like who's can go up the highest.
Sure.
There's no real goal. It's just I want to see how, and to break out of there's a lot of folks that we know, bands that we can play with, and we happy to play with them. But it's also good to get and play with other bands that you've never met, because this is, I mean, we just did Millvale, and you were there,
Yeah.
and there are so many bands that you might not have known about that there they are, and they're all together.
Yeah,
And it was
that-
wonderful. So that was, I mean, great for us just to play with in a different place with some different folks.
Definitely. It's huge. I think that it's really understandable and easy to empathize with the fact that it's really hard to just be in a band,
Mhm.
let alone trying to do anything with like some crazy end goal. It's a very small percentage of people that reach that crazy end goal, whatever it may be.
Mhm.
However you define success as an individual, we're not going to get into that can of worms. Okay. So don't worry about that. But for your band, the way that you're talking about it, Joe, just in terms of like, just see what we could do next,
Mhm.
meeting people. There's so much that you can do if you are willing to just step outside of that little bubble, because there is so much going on in the city. And, my bands, we always try to play with different bands, different genres. It really doesn't matter. I don't care what kind of music your band is. Like, do I want to hang out with you? Great. Because I know this isn't like some weird pissing contest of like, oh, my metal band's going to be better than your metal band, so we're going to get signed. Like, nah, that shit's hung up a long time ago, probably.
Right.
Unfortunately, it's like, I'm here, I drag my shit halfway across town, I want to have a good time. You want to have a good time? Cool.
Mhm.
It's not like this fucking competition thing.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm done.
I'm so old for that.
I'm done. 21 years old, I'm done with that.
I'm 20 and I'm already tired. Of
Yeah.
it. Yeah. No, that was Millvale was a really, I don't know. I'm still kind of buzzing from it. It was just the whole weekend because I went down Friday. We played Saturday night, but I went down Friday and just walked around and just didn't really have any itinerary. I was just going around checking it out and it made me
Soaking
feel
up
really
the
good.
energy.
Yeah, really soak up the energy, and just it was really fun.
Yeah,
good
it
to
was
do that.
cool.
It was
I
really,
think
really
there
good.
was definitely much better vibes this year than I've had in the past. Not that I've really had like explicitly bad vibes at Millvale, but there was just something a little bit, I don't know, a little twinkly in the air that made me feel a little misty-eyed
Yes,
to some degree.
yes.
It felt very wholesome this year. I don't know
did.
why. I'm sure some people had some not so wholesome experiences. I mean, I did drive down specifically at 9:00 in the morning and sat in my car for hours, so I wouldn't have to worry about parking later.
Wow.
But that's okay. I went to Mr.
Wow.
Small's Cafe, got a
Yeah.
coffee, did some work on my phone.
Yeah.
Things started up around 12. It was fine.
Yeah.
Die hard.
That's a good idea. I
Yeah.
parked at Shaler,
Yeah.
walked down the hill, but then
When
I had to
I-
walk up the hill.
The last time my band played, which was two of them ago, I actually lived up in Troy Hill.
Mm.
I drove down early in the morning, parked my car, got a lift home,
Uh,
and then took a lift
Just
back
so you had
down.
it there.
So it
Yeah.
was there. Yeah.
Smart.
yeah. I mean, I were down Friday night because if I didn't have to park, I wasn't going to. But
Yeah.
it wasn't so bad Saturday night. It was just watch out for the people. Don't run anybody over.
Yeah.
Watch out for people carrying gear.
Oh yeah.
It was good.
It was a cool show because there were so many fresh faces there. Like we looked out in the crowd and there's a lot of usual people you see at shows.
Mhm.
And I didn't see, it's not that they weren't there supporting us. I just saw a whole bunch of different people,
Yeah.
dozens and dozens. Like, I don't know who any of these people are.
Mm.
And that's a wonderful, exciting feeling to do that.
Yeah.
Especially if they're digging your music. If they're not digging the music.
Yeah, no, it's a great opportunity to grow. It's a great opportunity, to just get yourself out there in front of a bunch of new people. Like, like I got there at the time that I did. We set up our fucking merch, and I sat there all fucking day and talked to every fucking person that I could. Sold a shit ton of stuff. A bunch of people wearing our t-shirts, walking around. There's people buying our shit before we even played. It's like, oh, it looks cool. Come back. What time do you
Awesome.
play?
Wow.
There was no, unfortunately,
awesome.
our venue, there wasn't really any room for merch. The bands are just like,
Yeah.
we've got stuff,
Oh,
and
no.
actually,
Where'd you play?
we played at the Double L Bar. It was a lot of fun, though. And,
Yeah, that's a tough one.
And Erin, Mike's wife, she had some of the stickers, and so she just went around, and people were taking the stickers, and we just promo and just put it on the back door of the bar. And I don't know. I mean, Millville got me thinking about this too, and I don't know what your thoughts are on it now that I'm interviewing you. But
I'm ready to give the show up if anybody wants it.
Hi,
Joe,
I'm the host. This is stupid.
you got bullied into a 7-inch. Now you're going to get bullied
This
into a
is-
podcast.
Start the band now.
And we're all going to be
Yeah,
Paul Sheep.
every episode, Joe starts a new band.
I'll just go. Yeah, take that show review. But it seemed to me like our first show last year was like when things really started to. I felt that it was when things were really earnestly starting to bounce back from the pandemic, and people were hungry to go out.
Yeah,
there were a lot of people at that show we didn't know that I think just lived in the North Side, and they saw there was something, and they went in, and it was great. And the whole like landscape of our venues locally has changed, so we're all adapting to that. And
Yes, every venue sells chicken tenders now.
do they?
Oh yes, what Jurgles,
Oh,
the
well,
Craft House, the Smiling Moose.
I haven't played the Moose in forever.
Who else has chicken tenders? Spirit has pizza.
They do.
Yeah, there's probably some kind of a chicken tender situation happening.
There might be, and maybe that's.
Do you ever notice that I didn't mean to cut you off, Joe. I
That's
apologize, but this is a really fucking important question. Do you ever notice that the Jurgles logo, the J is a guitar that the strings are a fork? It's like a guitar restaurant fork. That's
I've
fucking
noticed that.
boss
I
graphic
never
design.
noticed.
Yeah,
That shit is hard
marketing
as fuck.
genius.
And
came
also,
up
who
with
the
that.
fuck is Jurgle? Does anybody know?
I can tell you, well, not who Jurgle is, but my in-laws, that was built in their backyard, their old backyard.
By
So-
Jurgle himself?
By when Jurgle built, when Mr. Jurgle built,
all by
built
himself.
his, yes.
One brick
And
at a time.
like the Dead Kennedys, the reunited Dead Kennedys would be playing there, and
Yeah.
there's my mother-in-law, like, this band, what is going on? Like, just across
Yeah,
the way.
definitely.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know, it's an interesting place.
Oh,
I don't know.
definitely. Yes.
Yeah,
Anyways, I apologize for that.
that's okay.
This is me reclaiming my podcast back. But you have plenty of time to take it over anyways. You were saying
Fine.
something about things coming back from the pandemic.
No, coming back, and I think
And I start talking about chicken tenders.
That's
I don't even know
fine.
why. I'm sorry.
As
no,
well done.
but
Oh, the landscape of venues
the
changing.
landscape
That's
of
what we.
venues
That's where we were.
changing, and,
Perfect.
And last year I went to Millvale just as a spectator, didn't play, and I was amazed at like so many people everywhere. And everywhere I went, there were so many people. It wasn't just like they're all at one bar and then some band's playing to nobody somewhere else. And this year it was even more people. It seemed like it just seemed really intense.
Yeah.
And I wonder if we're in a position now, not just us, but any local act, that like after the pandemic, people really want to go out and just try something new, especially with concert tickets for like national acts getting so expensive. I'm not saying that we're just entirely a substitute for that, but it is.
Yeah, I
You
mean,
know.
Fortunately, a lot of people changed in a lot of ways during the pandemic, but for better or worse, we're all still human, and basic human need is still a part of our lives and things that we wish to consume.
Mhm.
And I think live entertainment fulfills a lot of that. I think the struggle that a lot of local bands or even big bands, because even some tours can't get people out anymore, and it really has not so much to do with ticket pricing, has more to do with the fact that like people aren't creating environments that are super welcoming or friendly or convenient for people to be in. I think people like Millville, because it's like, oh, I know this is going to be fun and there's a bunch of stuff to do, rather than just watch 4 bands basically have a band rehearsal in a bar that's too small on a Thursday night.
Yes.
I've been there before. I've been to that show.
We've all been
Yeah,
there.
I've gone to that show too.
Mm.
And like me being somebody that likes seeing bands and likes going to shows, on all different levels, because I like still kind of view going to show blah, 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 going to shows as like going to class in a lot of ways. I like seeing what other bands are doing. I like, talking shit with my friends or giving praise where praise is due, and finding people to come on the stupid podcast, all that stuff. And I got to be out to do that. But for like the normal person, the muggle, maybe, if you will, for anybody, it's like a Harry Potter fan. I'm not a Harry Potter fan, really. I don't know why I said that. But for any like normal type people that aren't playing in bands, I think it's really hard to get them to come out to a show if it's just a show. There has to be some other things.
An event
So what
around
can
it.
we do,
Yeah.
as entertainers, as performers, as business entrepreneurs, event curators, because we kind of have to wear all of these hats.
Mhm.
Well, what do we do to get people to
Well, that
come
was
out
the
and keep
question.
on having fun at these events?
I was asking myself,
But that's
watching all
been-
those people,
yeah.
because they want it. There's obviously a hunger for it.
Yeah.
And so I'm wondering, like, as great as the venues that we play, a lot of the time just in Pittsburgh are, do we need to start breaking out and seeing if other places, not just the Thursday night, in front of 4 people or whatever, but like start like where are folks going that like they can walk to?
I think
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think the thing that's walkability is a huge issue.
Mm-hmm.
And I think too, it's just like knowing like where like your stuff kind of makes sense. Because as much
Yes.
as I think it's awesome to play shows with a bunch of different bands, one thing that I learn, and it's another thing with like going to class when I go to a bunch of shows, is like I can like go to a place I've never been to before, or maybe go to a place I haven't been on a night before, and be like, oh, like I could see this working, because there are some Thursday night shows I've gone to that have been awesome. Like
Mm-hmm.
we played at the Bridge a couple times, rest in peace. We can't keep a good venue for longer than 8 months in Pittsburgh, but and it was cool.
Yeah.
And it worked for us there, and
Yeah.
it was like, okay, like I went to a show there. I was like, I could see us playing there. So it was like, we got a show there. You find the right bands that will work there too. I know that like, oh, like these bands live in this area, so they might bring some people out. Like
Mhm.
trying to think about all that kind of stuff when you're booking a bill.
Yeah.
But a lot of that is just like really like having the knowledge and kind of doing the extra legwork of like knowing like what's going to work, and also like, oh, like thinking about things like the parking and do they have chicken tenders or not.
Very important question.
If they do have chicken tenders, is there like vegan, gluten-free, all that kind of stuff.
A
Very true.
variety of sauces.
Yes.
Yes. I mean, there should be like easily if you're and this is another rule, if your lineup has more bands than sauces they have available, the sauce to band ratio on the menu
It's
and the
key.
bill
We
has to
actually
be
we
even.
played last September. We played with this band, Autopilot.
Mm.
They were on tour down here from Canada, and
Yeah.
their merch, they were selling hot sauce.
Oh yeah.
It was
bought some.
delicious.
Yeah, I did.
I ate it all really fast,
like,
and
yeah,
I was sad
garlicky
when it was
hot sauce.
gone.
Yeah,
So good.
they were a good band, and we're still like
Mhm.
following them and everything. They follow us,
Saskatchewan, I
and-
think they were from.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and they're
Yes.
great. But that was sort of like that was only our second show too, but
That's right.
really pushed it, and knowing that like, okay, here's a touring band. We're learning about them now. Let's try to like get them as much
Yeah.
of an audience as we can. We
Mhm.
did the best we could.
Yeah,
well.
And I think too, like that whole concept I mentioned earlier about like the definition of success really needs to play into kind of like a reality check of like what I think a successful show is.
Yes.
Like if I could get fucking 25 people to show up on a Thursday, I'm like, whoa, this is insane.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's
You know,
It's a
but
good
for
show.
but for some people that's like they think that's like a total dud, and then they get in their fucking heads about it. And like
They've never played a dud show if they think that's
Yeah.
a dud.
but it's just like I don't know. I think you just got to be real about doing those things, and like it's like super easy to like lose your ass on a show if you like book above your heads, or if you get into the whole like selling tickets for like a Drusky show or something like
Nope.
that, which is cool if you want to do that. But if you're gonna do that, just make sure you can actually do it.
Right.
And I think you have, you have to have a separation too of you have to be business minded putting together a show, but if you get there and there's 2 people there, you have to set the business part aside and put on the best show ever for the bartender, his girlfriend, and the 2 people sitting in the front row.
Sure.
And that if there's only 4 people there, you still got to do that. So I think you got to kind of compartmentalize, like, let's do a good job business wise
Mhm.
for the band, but you're also an artist. You got to go in there and just say, I don't care if there's 2 people here. They're going to get.
They can look at you then and say,
Yeah.
"Hey, you showed up and you tried." Like they can say, "Hey, you tried to bring people in, but you played really well. We'll have you back. We'll get you on another thing," and you build that relationship too.
Yeah, I think it's hard. I can understand like the concept of like promoting being really fucking weird for a lot of people.
Mhm.
It's easy to kind of be an introvert. Being in our houses for like 3 years really didn't help a lot of things either. So when you're like talking about like trying to get people to come out to shows, it is kind of weird, but it's like and then like also too, there's that element of like, if you're a musician, you're doing it for yourself, or are you doing it to be big and famous? And then you run into this thing where it's like, okay, well, I'm doing it for myself, but I do want to play shows. And it's like, okay, well, if you're playing shows, obviously you want people to know about it. So you kind of got to get over that. Like, if you can find, like, you got to tell people about it.
Sure.
You got to tell people about it a lot. You got to tell
do.
people about it
Mhm.
more than you ever. I never wanted to be that person that would be like annoying online, especially when I was in my 20s, because that was a long time ago. But that was like when like, MySpace and the internet was just taking off. And I wish I would have been a little less punk rock in those days and been more like, cool, let's go for it.
Mhm.
Because like, I think I hurt myself in the long run by trying to be like the cool guy and not tell people about my art.
I didn't
tell
those
anybody.
days are
I
over.
can't believe
I
you don't
remember
know.
that.
Well, that's
Yeah.
the thing now. That's the thing
Yeah.
now. You have like, even, Henry Rollins will post a picture of his avocado toast. Like,
Yeah,
punk's not dead. It just has an Instagram.
this is
I guess.
true. Yeah,
But so it doesn't matter. But it's just like now, but still, it's like, it's almost the opposite. It's like you need to tell people
Mhm.
over and over and over again.
Mhm.
Even people, like I still run into people be like, oh, like, how's the band doing? You playing any shows? It's like,
did you
You
not
just
see?
Made
it's
a
like,
post
it's
today.
like
Yeah.
whenever you're online, Jeff, it's like, 'cause, like, there's those people that will like every single post that you post.
Yes.
There's people that like my posts for shows that I'm playing. Then I see them. They're like, when are you playing?
Yep.
Yeah.
We did one
We all-
right
What is
before-
happening, Jeff?
before the release of our EP, like a week out, and it was just an online. So our EP came out about what, 3 weeks ago,
Yeah,
Like
something
that.
like that.
and it's just on the streaming and on Bandcamp. We didn't do a physical release, so just try to do the whole like countdown. And I made like this little animation. It was 3D, and I rendered it, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna be strategic. I'm gonna post this like noon on Monday, and that'll be like the algorithm will be like on my side, and and I'm like the practice that night. I'm like, I don't want to do the band anymore. I want to do the video.
Yeah, I genuinely like really don't believe in the algorithm.
Yeah.
I know
don't-
that
at this
there's
point,
I know that
don't.
there's something out there happening.
Yes.
I just don't know where I stand.
Mm-mm.
It's kind of like a religion thing for me. Something's going on. I just don't quite fully understand it. And that's fine. I know there's some people that like subscribe to the algorithm thing, and sometimes it works for them, sometimes it doesn't. They kind of sound like people at a casino to me.
Just like dumb.
Like I hit it
Yeah.
big this week with the algorithm. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, what about the other 26 posts?
I
That
stopped
those hit it big.
hashtagging things. I just let
Yeah.
it go. I might put a couple things like hashtag
Mhm.
rock and roll Pittsburgh power, but none of that whole like a wall of hashtags
Yeah.
trying to like.
I just don't think
It doesn't work.
nobody wants to be like promoted to.
No.
And I think that sometimes if you're like posting too much about stuff, at least what I've found for like a band on the level that my bands are on, and maybe we're on an equal level, we're all peers, we're sitting at the same table, right?
Mhm.
So it's like, I'm not Beyonce. I may be able to dance like Beyonce, but I am not Beyonce, obviously, right?
Right.
So nobody really needs like the countdown from me.
Right.
And so it's like I find now the best way to just like release stuff is just release it. Because if
Yeah, that was the
anybody's
hard
gonna
lesson,
if anybody's
right.
gonna see my post, I want it to be like, here's the thing, you can watch it now, because there is not one person on this planet, as much as I know there are people out there that like, love me and care about me. I don't feel alone in the world or anything, but I also
Sure.
don't expect any of them to mark my album release in their calendar, if we're being
Yeah.
real.
This is
So-
true, and that was
This
kind of
is
that
like
was a
the
hard
thing.
lesson. I was like, well, and then when it did finally drop, and we did a few things leading up to it after that, but we just said, here it is, and people actually like went to the band camp and things like that. I was like,
That's
okay,
awesome,
that's
yeah.
great. It was a good feeling, and I was more anxious about it just to get it out the door, and like, oh, how's this gonna be? And then once it was, click publish on Bandcamp, and then it's live on Spot, it was like, okay, you know what? And it's done. I haven't even listened to it since then. I'm not gonna listen to it. It's out there. I don't need to.
It's kind of it's like I don't know what's with the analogies today, but like putting your album out there on digital, it's like a stock. It's like it's gonna accrue over time.
Yes.
Some people get rich overnight, but for the most part, it's just kind of there lingering. It's gonna build a bit.
Well, I
don't own any stock. I really don't know how this
discover
works.
it every day.
Yeah,
there's tons of people out there.
If you keep talking about it,
if you find it on a Monday, maybe someone else finds it Thursday later that week. It's not a rate. It's not like they were all sitting there waiting for the starting gun to go off. It's there. They're going to find it.
My mom bought it 3 days after it came out. So
3.
Yeah. Thanks, Mom.
Was she being cool?
Yeah.
If I buy it right away, you'll think I like it.
If you buy it right away, it's better for the algorithm.
This is true. Jeez, Mom. No. But I actually, getting, this all ties into this whole thing about people going out to shows and this new, I won't say new, but sort of evolved ecosystem post-pandemic of playing shows. It's that old like Mike Watt Minutemen thing, that the show is the thing. The recordings, especially when you're just doing digital, that's the flyer. That's the thing. That's your business card.
Totally.
So do not like put all your weight and be like, this is our Sgt. Pepper. This is our whatever. This is just us at this moment, as best as we could do it. And then you want to really hear what it's about, come see us live.
Yeah, that's
the record. I'm proud of it. I think everybody did a great job, but I would sooner have somebody just come watch us live.
Yeah, that's the best way to think about it, especially if you're actually a band that's playing songs and not like one of these more like modern kind of like bedroom producer things. I mean, which there's a lot of merit to that as well. I don't have any beef with bedroom people. I've recorded songs in hotel rooms. Cool. But like the whole like concept of like recording and releasing an album or doing a music video and all this stuff, like that's stuff for like big bands.
Yes.
And like we can do that for fun.
Yeah.
But like, why are we doing this?
It's for fun.
Yeah. I recently got into a situation where, I am I have a band and we are recording an album and, like, oh, let's do a video. And, now I am more zeros than I would like to admit into this thing. And I was like, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
I mean, like, it's like for what?
Well,
it's like realistically, it's like, oh, maybe a couple hundred people will watch it. But also, like, I could just film our fucking band practice and put a cool filter on it. It's going to do the same exact thing. It's going to do the same fucking thing. I don't need to have this, like, fucking Wish.com Steven Spielberg fucking music video thing. Like,
and also everyone's going to watch it on their phone. So if you're thinking you're going to put this on a giant screen,
exactly.
No,
nobody's going to be like, I can't wait to go home and watch this band's video on my TV. They're going to watch it on their phone.
I barely even like enjoy watching like artists that I like. If they put out a new video, chances are I'm only watching it because I want to hear the new song.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm not super interested in like music video content, especially for a lot of the stuff that I listen to, which is like objectively dog shit child music, because it's all like people screaming and stuff. Like, it's really silly, but that's what I like.
Yeah.
But like, I like it like audibly, but like the way a lot of those music videos are, where it's like, why are we still in dirty warehouses? Why is there still some like weird half naked girl covered in blood? Can we stop this? Like, this is fuck.
Formulas, whether they work or not.
What are we doing here?
Away.
No.
And like, it's weird where I just don't know. Like, but I feel like we've been kind of with social media, like our brains have kind of been warped to be like, oh, we need to do the countdown thing. We need to do the music video. Yeah. We have to have this. We need to have that, because otherwise we won't look like a real band.
Well, real bands, you were used to, they put out an album, they put out 2 or 3 videos over the year, and they go on tour in the fall. But with social media, if you haven't posted something in 2 weeks, people are, you guys break up? What's going on?
Sure.
So, it's, you kind of feel like the dancing monkey, like get out there and dance. It's been 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And we talk about that in practice. Sometimes we should post something. And then we're like,
let folks know we're still alive.
Well,
but,
we don't, but on the spot, you're like, I don't know what to Post.
Yeah, if you don't have nothing to post, don't post nothing.
No.
Yeah.
Fucking Gray Walker, especially during the pandemic, we didn't fucking like post anything for like over a year.
Yeah.
Nothing was happening. We
Yeah.
were writing, we were recording an EP and all that stuff.
Mhm.
And then when we had like a fucking, something, we're like, oh, hey,
Party foul.
That's what happened.
sorry about that.
That's okay.
We were like, hey, here's a thing.
Touchdown.
We put it out, and it was like still like the same interaction
Yeah.
from people. Like I don't think that as long as what you're putting out, if it like is relevant, like, oh, hey, we're playing a show, come to it. Here's a song, listen to it.
Yeah.
And then every
Yeah.
once in a while, here's a stupid picture of our drummer. Laugh at it. Like just
Well, the one thing that
something happens.
we did, I think, in those terms, it was kind of a concession to what bands do. Is we did get some proper photos done, and we did go into it like we didn't just say, well, let's go stand in front of a brick wall. It's like, well, no, let's go somewhere that's green. We can be outside. That's not immediately identifiable as Pittsburgh. And like, your friend was like right there with us.
The colors, we could be anywhere on Earth.
Yeah.
And that's great.
We can dress up a little bit, just a little bit,
Well,
not
yeah, I think
too
that-
ostentatious or anything. But
I
like,
mean, like that's the thing is like I don't think that it's one of those. I don't want to come off as like really like pessimistic, like
No.
don't do anything, fuck it. Like I'm literally sitting in here with a room with way too much fucking equipment because I care too much still about things that are a little insignificant.
Right.
No.
But it's like we don't like this podcast doesn't even have 3 camera angles. Doesn't even have 1 camera angle, just be the mics.
but it shows you care though. There is that.
But it's
there's that
fun.
one, yeah.
I don't know how you're paying all this crew here to operate the camera.
Oh, I wish I had crew.
You
tell
guys are
you
doing
what.
a great job.
But I think it's just, yes. Give it up to Beetlejuice and Lisa Simpson, Mickey Mouse, Dana Scully. Appreciate all of
And
The
them
whole
Mummy.
gang.
and the whole gang. But I think it's just like setting not necessarily a limit or a boundary.
Yeah.
But just like it just not getting yourself to a point where like you're doing things because you feel like you absolutely need to do them.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Let the muse drive you.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's fun in the moment,
Yeah.
like,
What's fun in the moment is practice. I mean, I don't know. I'm getting sentimental. I like it when everybody's at my house and we're practicing. And,
That's sweet.
it's old songs that we've done for a year still sound good, and new songs are evolving. That's honestly that's why I'm doing it. And the other stuff, I've gotten better about. I think I've gotten better at posting to social media. I used to. I was
if
thinking
you
for a
if
while.
you publish something, then you're doing it.
you're doing it, yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, but I really just like playing, and that's at the end of the day, it's what I want to do, and I like playing with everybody, and that's the fun of it. When everybody leaves at the end of practice, I sit on the couch. I'm like, that was a good practice. I can't wait until the next one, and then we have a show. We get to go do this in front of other people. Awesome,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and that's how I feel about it. And then Millville. I mean, I'm sorry, I'm still buzzing, but that was that feeling like times 10.
That was a blast.
That was a blast. It's but then the crushing thing was, you've waking up the next morning like, oh, I gotta go back to this my life.
The come down.
The come down from that was pretty
Oh yeah.
rough. But no, that was a lot of fun. And I think if I had to concede like any kind of goal, it would be to sort of put ourselves in situations
Mhm.
where the way we write music and the way that we interact with other folks means that like we get to do these things, and that's as far as the goal goes. I'm trying not to think about it, not to invoke him just because he just passed away, but I did see a quote from Steve Albini, and all the quotes that people were sharing, because he was a very quotable person.
Yes.
But he said, when you have goals, you're going to be just driving yourself up the wall. You're going to be miserable. And I found that in terms of music, putting things into terms of goals, I do become miserable very quickly if I've got some notion of got to be there and do this, do that. And it's like, no, just sit back,
Yeah.
just write the songs and play them, and the rest will fall into place.
Yeah. I think that whenever
That's all right.
whenever anybody talks about or romanticizes art or songwriting, there it's all this it's really freeing, and you could connect with your spirit and connect with other people on different levels, and let loose and kind of dig in and find things. And a lot of this is like the antithesis to like having a goal. Like it doesn't really make sense.
Yeah.
It's like goals are like rigid,
Mhm.
and like goals are like something that like you predict and you problem solve and find a way to make them happen.
Yeah.
And I feel like the only kind of art that comes from that sort of thinking is like Rush or something, which is like cool. But I'm just making like I was making like a progressive rock joke. But you know what I mean? Like in terms of like being back to not being silly. I think that if you have like if you already like haven't how do I say this? I feel like if you have like such a specific idea in your head about like what the end result is supposed to be,
Mhm.
like how are you ever gonna like let things like circumstance or happy accidents, the things that like tend to make like the good songs really good, things that you weren't expecting to happen,
Exactly.
if you're just so laser focused on this one idea.
Well, for example, we write our own material. In fact, we've only ever played one cover live. It's all original stuff that we do. But when we bring original stuff into the band, you kind of hear, this is my thing. And the band, every time you bring something, the band changes it. They don't change it for the better or worse. They change it in a way that you had no idea how to change it. And sometimes it's the simplest thing. Like, I had no idea. I've been sitting on this song for 2 years. And you present it, and 5 minutes later, somebody goes, hey, why don't you go to the A minor? You're like,
Sure.
and you don't realize that, or change this word to that, or why don't we, create a new intro? All of a sudden, it's a complete different. It's the same song, but it punches harder. It's better. And if you sat in your room by yourself, you may not have ever gotten there.
Totally.
I mean, that single, the one with that song, when we got in the room and started playing it, there's just one take we did of it, just to practice, that you would turn, Aaron, you turn the beat around slightly.
Yeah.
And I was like, I wish I had done that, because it turned it, and like it just gave it that much more energy, gave it that much more swing. And I was kicking myself like, why did I have to do this by myself?
But that's why you pulled me in.
Exactly. And I looked at that as a very functional thing, like kind of like, here's the goal, or in some ways. But then that's like, this is why you have a band, because that song, I felt okay about it, but I really liked playing it once we started.
And I mean, like this is the 7-inch. That song is just like basically just like a snapshot, a Kodak moment, if you will, of where you were in your life at that time.
Yeah, 2 years
And
ago,
like
2 years ago.
art should be allowed to develop, it should be allowed to change.
Mhm.
I hate the idea that like bands shouldn't re-record songs down the road. Why not?
Oh yeah.
Have fun with it, like there's
Or they
a
have
lot
to
of,
do it exactly the same way live.
a lot of like old school recording artists, there's many different versions of songs, like different, there are like studio recordings of them with like different backing bands and things like that, and just evolved versions, and like that's cool. It's like, why can't I do that? Why do I feel like if I like wrote some song 5 years ago and it's better now, do I have to like commit myself to this crappy 5-year-old version of it that I recorded in my bedroom? Like, let's redo it if we like it. Why not?
Yeah.
Who cares? It's just, nobody actually cares. It's our ego. And sometimes our ego is what stops us or creates us from like thinking like, oh, like just go to the A minor. Like it's that simple change, but it's like, no, I'm an artiste. I need to think of the complicated chord progression to make this song the next best thing. And it's just like, not always.
I mean, we did, facetiously, but not. I remember when we started playing, I remember looking at them and being like, I just want to make music that people like for once. I just want to write. If I like them, I don't want to overthink them. I just want to like. There is a line between overthinking and then discovering something and employing that. But I didn't want to go into this like we need to woodshed for 6 months and then we can bring it out and
Sure,
perfect. It's like, well, it's gonna be what it's gonna be.
Yeah, you have to be able to like trust the other people that you're choosing to work with, trust their intuition, trust them as creatives, as musicians, as players. Otherwise, why are you playing with them? But more difficultly is a word now, deal with it. The more complicated thing is that you have to be able to do that for yourself.
Yes.
Woof.
We're
not going to open that can of worms, but
the problem is like I grew up in a household with a lot of like classic rock and just my mom and dad having like the complete discographies of like their favorite bands, the Beatles, whatever. And so I grew up hearing like the complete works of like Simon and Garfunkel or the Rolling Stones or whatever, you know. So you already get it in your head. Like before I even picked up guitar at like 13, it's like bands, like they have works, you know, and you don't realize that it's like the Beatles, not to invoke the Beatles, I feel like that's just so cheesy, but they didn't start out in 1963 saying they were going to be at the White Album 5 years later. They just kind of got there. And everything they dealt with in their fame and the ridiculousness of their lives informed that later on, but they just didn't like jump to it consciously. So you can't even look at it like, I want to have 5 albums under our belt. I want there to be an evolution. You can't do that.
That would be the cool science fiction talk show.
Yeah.
Where you have a time machine and you take a band just starting and go, you guys are excited, right? We're going to go forward in time 9 years and listen to your last album. And they'd be like, wait, what? And what would their reaction?
That's Bill and Ted.
What's their? That's true. But talk about those first listen videos on YouTube. Imagine listening to yourself, but is it like, huh? Why did we do this? Or where did this come from? And I would think that even a writer wouldn't understand where those songs came from because, like you said, they haven't lived that yet. They haven't processed it through the filter of whatever they were going through. You know.
Yeah.
A lot of those British invasion rock stars, when they got big, rich, and famous, they started writing albums about like being in the Caribbean and going to the beach, or you know, having a chauffeur-driven car. They probably didn't think of that when they were in Cleveland, you know, playing in their garage. But all of a sudden, that's a part of their life, you know. So they're going to write about what they know, and as they go on and on and on, they can zero in on those topics in ways that other people can't.
I think that it's with the Beatles in particular, and just like any of those other bands, I think that a lot of it was going back to the beginning of this conversation, and those bands just like being in the moment, taking advantage of the opportunities and the things around them, and just like moving forward.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Especially with something like the Beatles, which was kind of like ground zero for pop culture in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, you couldn't even imagine what the end goal of that would be, because there really hadn't been much of anything else like that.
They were like, we get to go to Hamburg and play for people.
Yeah.
Well, sign us up.
So
you know, let's go.
Like, and then the whole time they're just like surrounded by people with money and resources to recording equipment, and just throwing them in rooms, and then, you know, they're in rooms just recording all the fucking time, playing shows all the fucking time. And then there's, you know, other things start coming into the rooms, and
the engineer that was recording the Beatles,
yeah,
they said, hey, can you move that bass drum mic closer to the bass drum? We want to get a sound recorded that pops, because they were hearing those sounds coming out of America, but they weren't doing that in Britain. And the company that ran Abbey Road Studio said, you're not allowed. It's against the rules to put the bass drum microphone up against there because it's going to be loud. And they said,
yeah,
no shit. That's what we're trying to do. And it worked. And they close mic'd that drum. And then all of a sudden, you know, it started a trend. But if they hadn't had an engineer go, well, Ringo Starr asked me to do this, I better do it, that gave them an opportunity. The first time they went to the studio and they said, do it, they like, get out of here. Go back to Liverpool.
Yeah.
So opportunity breeds the, you know, innovation, essentially.
Sure. And it's been really fascinating over the past, I mean, even just the past couple decades, with how advances in technology and recording techniques, how that almost kind of like pivots genres of music in different ways.
Yeah.
Especially with like heavy metal, where it's like, you know, once computers got involved and a little bit of wizardry and a little bit of digital manipulation and people putting out recordings that aren't quite genuine, but being advertised as genuine. That's a problem. But then kids are listening to that thinking that's how people play guitar, that's how people play drums. And now there's 10-year-olds out there that are like insanely good because the baseline for them is such a higher level.
Right.
Yeah.
And it like created this whole new thing. And you get that with, I'm sure, other genres too, but like metal is kind of like where I exist in the most. I know the most about. So it's just interesting to see that. And like, it's like, okay, if these people 10 years ago wouldn't have like Pro Tools the hell out of their stuff and put out this basically electronic album advertised as a metal album, would there be kids this good now? Or would it be I don't know.
I
mean,
feel cursed in a way because I grew up, with a 4-track. Kind of at the tail end of that thing in the 90s. Like, your parents for your birthday could get you a cheap one, and I learned how to write songs on it. And the band I was in, they were lo-fi for the time, absolutely, but we were trying to let's see how far we can take this. And then computers came in to the whole thing. But even when I've recorded stuff on my phone and put it out in my own little bedroom, pop kind of stuff on Bandcamp. And but it's just about the novelty almost and the convenience of recording it on my phone. And there's things you can do to you can do EQs, you can do compression, you can edit some things down here and there. But to me, that's just more again, it's a snapshot. I'm not trying to polish something and make it something it isn't.
Yeah.
And so I still record with that sort of 4-track approach when I record on my phone. And even then, if I have an idea for a song, I'll still get out of the basement. I have my 4-track set up with the tape ready to go. Because I want to hear what it'll sound like, approximating a band in a room in almost the tiniest way possible. Because if it sounds good that way, then the song will sound good when the band starts putting it together.
Well,
That's my take.
sure. There's a lot to be said about the rhythm, chord, and melody of a song.
Yeah.
And if you can't break something down to a very simple structure,
Yeah.
it's do you actually have a song?
Yeah.
Right.
And that's something that I struggle with a lot playing in a heavy metal band, because a lot of what we're doing sometimes isn't necessarily songwriting. It's showing off, I guess, for lack of a better word. And it's how do you turn that into a song? How can we break this down? It's if this wasn't if we didn't have all of these fucking layers and all this stuff, would it still sound good? And that's something that we actually, really actively try to do. It's I don't want us to try to write something that we can't actually play in the room together. I don't want to have these extra cool backing guitars and all this extra harmony stuff that sounds sweet. Don't get me wrong.
Are they gonna go to the club with you though?
Yeah, that's the thing is I don't want it to be a thing where it's if it's just the 5 of us on a stage playing and it sounds like half the song is missing, then it's we have a problem.
One thing we've definitely, tried to do from the beginning is, write guitar parts that play off one another.
Yeah.
Where we're playing not in harmony, but there were a couple what happens, somebody has something that same night, so the rest of the band gets together, and there was one practice Tammy couldn't be there, and we played, and it was there is a massive space that's missing, and the song was there, but it wasn't the same. And so we definitely, when we write, we say, well, let's make use of everybody's skills and the way we can work off of each other. We've got 4 singers in the band too, so we try to, if there's a part of the song where a 3 or 4 part harmony will fit, we'll do it. We don't just shoehorn it in.
Sure.
And plus, with something like that, unless you're the Beach Boys or something where you're just doing harmony all the time, you want something that it's part of the hook, but you don't want it going all the time.
Yeah, I mean, just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do it.
Nope.
It's it'd be a roller coaster that was nothing but loops.
Yeah. All marshmallows, all berries.
1 or 2 is fine.
Yeah.
I don't need to go upside down that much.
No. Yeah, because there go the potato chips fries. Gone.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah.
The one thing we got a compliment one time, we played a show, and it was a songwriting compliment. I don't think the person meant it as that, but he said, I like your songs because they all have solid endings. And I was which is I like the way you have 2 ears and a nose. Well, of course they all have endings, but not all bands, they write the meat, and then at the end they're da 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 da, and every song ends with da 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 da. They don't have interesting things to do, and we try to come up with rhythmic, interesting ways to end.
Oh yeah, I mean, I've said this before, but I do view every song, the perfect analogy for a good song is a roller coaster.
Yeah,
you have a build and a fucking climax, and it might spin you around a bit, but it always comes back around to the station. And when you get off, you want the people to get back on. You want them to ride it again. You want them to hear that song again.
Yeah,
they remember it. You know, but a lot of people just aren't. I mean, writing a good song is hard. there's people that I've worked with that are like really good, like ideas, like good at riffs, but like putting it together is a whole different thing because like that's where the power of collaboration comes in there. Cause sometimes like, you know, I may be working with a guitar player that isn't a vocalist. So they might be like, oh, I was like playing this riff and I think 2 times is enough. And it's like, well, vocally, that doesn't make sense. I think we need to go 4.
Right.
You know, because we're trying to build up to something, or sometimes it's less. Sometimes they like, this riff is so cool, you know, we're just keep it going. And it's just like, don't bore us, get to the chorus. Like, let's fucking go.
Yeah.
So, but you know, there's no right or wrong way to write a song, but I do think that that's a great compliment. Whoever said that was obviously somebody that listens to a lot of music.
Yeah, and it kind of after you play a show, people are like, "Oh, sounds great," and you're always whatever. But they said that I was like,
yeah,
wow, okay, yeah.
The
and
thing
it stuck with me.
I think I pay attention to the most when I'm watching bands is how they do transitions between parts and songs.
Yeah,
because I'm a big transition person. I think that that's like one of those, like, if you're like hitting like sharp lefts and sharp rights, it's just like, ugh, you gotta find some way to get this together. And I mean, a lot of the times that's like understanding a drummer that can do push and pull between different parts and like different swings and things like that. And also, one of the plagues of modern music is how we've all gotten used to being on the grid and doing songs in one tempo the entire time. You know, like, I think that everybody recording to a click all the time, I understand the engineers thing with that, and I'm gonna be a hypocrite because my band always records the clicks too. It's fine, I get it, but you do miss a lot of that like push pull and natural feel that you'll get from a lot of things, you know.
Well, I mean, would Pink Floyd sound the same if they played 4/4 on every song?
Well, we did the EP because we recorded with Johnny Razorblade, and there was no click, and which was great. And we went in, we'd practiced. I think we just did a run through at my house like a night or two before we went in just to make sure. There was no grid, and he brings out like the vocal mic. He's like, "Okay, time for the vocals," and I was like, "Fuck, all right." I really don't. This is the part I hate. I thought like I would be able to go away for a while, you know, and psych myself up and whatever. And I remember saying, "Hey, feel free to liberally apply some auto-tune," and he just goes, "Nope," like through the top back. "Nope." I'm like, "All right." And he got some I'll say he got some decent takes out of me. They're on the record. They're fine. And I remember when we dropped it, listen to me, we dropped it. When we dropped it, he even shared it, and he was like, "This is what a band sounds like when you don't snap them to the grid and put auto-tune on. This is what a band sounds like in the room." And that was one of the best compliments. I mean, he meant it in a good way. And I was like, that's one of the best compliments. I think maybe he's biased because he recorded us, but I thought that was a very sweet thing of him to say and like put that out there and how he presented us, you know.
Well, not to toot our own horn, but we have the best drummer in town, and that helps a lot.
It's pretty good.
Oh, shucks. Come on.
No, I mean, it's something. And like, you know, I understand. I mean, there's both sides of it. Is somebody that has produced a lot of their own music. It's definitely very, I also kind of have like a very OCD, neat, tidy sort of thing. I don't know if you can look around here and kind of notice I'm very, if I'm recording, it's like the DAW is my room. So I kind of like everything being all lined up in my brain, but I also fully understand as a listener how that's not always great for the music. You know what I mean? You can listen to old Metallica, you know, it's like, you think they were recording Kill 'Em All on a click track? Probably not.
Nope.
I know none of the Pantera stuff was recorded to a click track. Not to talk about them because fucking whatever, but that rhythm section was fucking hard, regardless of whatever social situations may or may not be surrounding that band. Rhythm section was tight and they never recorded to a click. And that was really technical stuff. They were tight, but it all had that natural push and pull. Like all that stuff when like a part comes in, it's all like, all of a sudden it's like a little bit slower and it gets your head like, oh, what the fuck is that?
Yeah.
That's no click. That's what that is. That's like a natural feeling of just like your body changing. It's really hard to do that when you're being so structured with everything.
And what's funny, but like, as you're saying that, I'm thinking to myself, have we done that yet?
We got to write a song in waltz time now.
Right. I've got some, you know, on the shelf, but that's the thing. I think, well, we'll get there. if we haven't done it yet, we'll get there. It'll happen. I'm not gonna like overthink it, but you know, there'll be a time when maybe I'll just be like, hey, Aaron, here, can you try something? You just like dial it way back and just like really throw a curveball, and we'll see how it goes. You know?
Well, I will say this is the first band I've been in where we have two drummers. One's not being a drummer at the moment, but I feel like Jane Goodall. I was observing these two drummers communicate in the rehearsal room, and it was fascinating. But it's in it because I've always been around other guitar players who talk about guitar ad infinitum. And all of a sudden, I was like, that's an interesting perspective because that's the big chunk of what we're doing. And they're bouncing off, hey, try this, do this, do this, do this.
Well,
or in other bands, if you only have one drummer, the drummer's going to play whatever they want.
Well, yeah, sure. I mean, I think I've dealt with this a lot with Greywalker, where, you know, our guitar guys aren't necessarily like rhythm guys. They're very skilled at writing guitar riffs and like really good at what they do.
Yeah.
But like as far as the rhythm stuff goes, I know there's been situations where it's like we need to kind of adjust, get on the same page, because I don't think we're always thinking about like what the drums for this part are going to be.
Right. Because
You know, they're not drummers.
It's another musical instrument. It's not just the backbeat.
And like if you're like a heavy metal guitar player, it's kind of like all I'm thinking about is myself and the guitar. You know, but that's
because we're
God bless
musicians.
Yes. But to have a guitar player that's also a drummer, I'm sure that like really helps inform, like if you're writing a song, like you're probably already thinking in your head naturally about what this could be.
Yes, but I also think too that communicating with drummers and how you communicate with them as a drummer is super important.
I need more of the boom boom that
right
that
and that, or just even like, you know, I just try to, because I know what it is to be sitting on the drum throne, because a lot of time you're also waiting for the guitars to tune or dialing the PA, and you know, guitars are working on parts of vocals. So I hope, Aaron, when I communicate with you, it's with the most respect, you know, because I know what it's like.
Yeah, it sounds better when he's like, you know, can you play this? And describes that. I would be like, can you do the ding ding ding?
I dealt with
boom boom
a guitarist trying to explain to me what kind of rhythm they wanted, and I would play it and they go, no, more like this. I'm like, you mean like this? And they're like, no. And I'm like, you're not a drummer. So I'm gonna play what I think feels right in this moment. So otherwise you could just play your guitar. And that's why I appreciate when Joe gives me some feedback or instruction, because it's like he can come to me respectfully as a drummer to say, hey, why don't you try this? And he'll speak in drum speak also, where it's like I know exactly what he's talking about, you know, whether rhythmically or, you know,
4 on the floor. I remember you said that when I was like, what's that?
Yeah. So there's no question.
Yeah. I thought it was an ad for Dodge or something.
Yeah.
No, it's and the interesting thing too is that now that we're all playing together, we come from some different places musically. You know, we aren't all just solely coming from punk rock. We aren't solely just coming from indie rock or country. Everybody's kind of informed by all those things a little bit, but there isn't one sort of like unified thing where we're like, yeah, we're all a fan. We're each a fan of this band all together. And in fact, you know, on the topic of covers, it's one reason that we don't do them. Really, I mean, we could. I'm not writing it off forever, but you know, okay, what do we cover? Who we need to pick a song. Number one, why are we doing it? Number one. Number two, everybody has to like it. Everybody has to be on board with it and be just as enthusiastic to learn it, to do the homework, to learn a song we didn't write, to then go out and play in front of people. And
that's harder than writing a song.
It's harder than writing a song, and I'd rather spend time writing a song and working on stuff we've already done. I'm not saying I'm against covers, you know, out of principle, but in this case, it's like, well, you know, like Tammy and I, like, we're into the Replacements and the Descendants, and like Mike and I are into the Beatles, and like Aaron and I talk about like Led Zeppelin and, you know, country music. So we kind of come from these different areas that influence all of us. But I also, it's one of those things. It's like, well, if we had to pick one thing we could cover that would sum all that up, like, I don't know. I don't care that much.
We just make it our own.
We are that band that sums all that up.
I guess. I don't know. But
and like you were talking about, the one thing that I kind of dig about the band, and like you said, we don't try to do things, we just play. And I've been in bands in the past where the genre drove you. where you'd write a song and like you're in a metal band. You write the best song that you ever came up with was great. And you're like, that's not a metal song.
Sure.
I'll just put it over here.
Mhm.
And I think we've all been in bands where you would write a song and you're like, well, that's not really that band's material. And that's one thing I think that we kind of set aside here is that we want to write and perform songs that people like, that people enjoy. And I know it's a dirty word, pop, but I like writing songs that people are going to want to hear, a wide variety of people are going to want to hear, versus, okay, this is going to, I'm looking at the audience, a third of them aren't going to like this song. Let's go 1, 2, 3, and bam. I've done that too many times, where you're so specific in a genre. It's nice to just, can we do this? Yeah, sure. How about this type of song? Yeah. How about this different kind of beat? How about this kind of guitar sound? Everything's on the table. We can do that. We're not like, well, that's not really the way.
But then if they don't like something,
Yeah.
it's like that old Ramones thing of like, in 2 minutes, there's going to be another song coming right along after it.
Right.
So don't worry, because it'll be a different one.
Yeah.
You might like it. I don't know. So it's not a matter of trying to be all things to all people, but it's just being true to ourselves, really.
Sure. I mean, like, there's so much art in the world. There's so much music in the world. And I know people don't like it when I say this, but the world doesn't need any more fucking art. There's enough. Okay. So if you're putting anything out at all, the best thing that you could do is just make sure that it's something that you genuinely feel is worth something to you.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And then it might mean something to somebody else too.
Yes.
But at its core, it's not like anybody's starving for new stuff.
No. But then
That's
again,
a big part of the problem we were talking about earlier.
True. I do try to listen to as much new stuff as I can, because I don't want to be the person that just like my musical tastes end at like 1999 or when
Sure.
I graduated high school. But it is kind of it's a weird, you kind of have to temper your expectations, even though you don't have goals all the time in your expectations, you still have to kind of temper them, realizing that like you are just kind of throwing it out in the ether and it's just going to be floating around out there. And, and you've got these news stories about Spotify is going to stop paying bands under so many plays, blah, 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 because that's what matters. That's what's important. And it's like, well, I'm just going to get this thing out there and we're going to play shows, and that's what it's about. And it sounds directionless, but it's
almost freeing that Spotify doesn't pay people anymore, because you weren't going to get anything anyway. So
it's
why bother? Why get upset?
It's like I see people talking about it, and like, sure, it's like fucked up, but it's like, what game do you think you're playing? It's like your band has 10 monthly listeners, and that's fine. That's a lot of people, but shut the fuck up. Like, if you put in the work and get yourself to a point where like you had enough followers or enough attention on you that would actually matter anyways, the Spotify revenue would be pennies to what your band is doing.
Exactly.
You would have to be fucking touring and doing all this merch and all this great stuff.
And also, when I was a teenager learning to play music, if somebody told me there's going to be a computer program that you can play any song that's ever been made and your stuff's on it, I think that would be the greatest thing in the world.
Oh yeah. I mean,
so people are like, oh, this is terrible. I'm like, I kind of like, it's like airplanes that fly through the sky and you can go to London in a few hours. That's kind of cool. Standing in line at the airport sucks, but going from point A to point B quick, that's cool. Having your music online where someone on the other side of the world can listen to it, and you don't have to mail it or beg some DJ over somewhere else to do it. It's just there. That's awesome. It's such a cool thing.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I remember like getting home from high school, waiting to see if like one song had finished downloading. And like, not yet. It's like, I'm gonna be able to listen to that song, and then half the time it's not even the song that I thought it was.
Yeah.
I knew someone that went to Pitt. They were a student at Pitt, and he downloaded the whole Bowie catalog because they had some fancy, crazy, fast T1 line at Pitt. And they downloaded it all and then bragged about it. And all of a sudden they had a business, because people were like, I've been trying to do it on dial-up. What can you download for me? I was like, whoa, easy, champ. You're going to get the FBI at your room door.
Yeah. Oh, man.
But then he went back and bought all David Bowie's albums because he felt guilty after he graduated.
Well, that's sweet.
Well, and that's my whole thing. I mean, I know I'm kind of an outlier, but I buy vinyl, and my thing is, if I find something on Spotify and it goes into rotation, I will drive over to Government Center or the Attic, wherever, and if they have it, I'll buy that vinyl.
That's the right thing. Yeah.
and that's the right thing to do. So if anything, if somebody hears our Spotify and then they want to go to the band camp, that's fine. I won't stop them, but it's not, again, not a goal.
Totally. I
So-
think, for bands at a level that my bands operate on, and, you're the same, I imagine, where it's just like the best thing that we can do is just try to play shows in front of as many new people as possible
Mm-hmm.
whenever we can.
Yeah.
Show up, do a good job, be nice.
Mhm.
And as long as the songs are okay,
Mm-hmm.
you'll probably do okay.
Yeah.
Somebody else will probably ask you to play another show.
Yeah.
And there might be
Mhm.
more people there, might be less people there. A lot of that stuff's uncontrollable, but just
Mm-hmm.
keep just pushing forward and don't get distracted about like the likes on Instagram or the plays on the Spotify. Just like do the thing. And I think about like the happiest that I've ever been as
Mhm.
like a creator. It's like when I was like, it was like 2000 and like I was in high school still, and like I like had like a little beat machine and I worked at Taco Bell, and like nobody knew who the fuck I was, but I could like get on a show at like Peter's Pub when I was underage in Oakland still, and like
Yeah.
play like a little rap show, rapping on some beats that I made,
Mhm.
like, and that was the best. It's like nobody knows who I am, but like the 20 people that were there knew who I was, and it felt like it was the biggest thing in the world to me.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah.
All of these like
It was,
little
yeah.
shitty shows, and it's like
Mhm.
I just need to just still get that feeling and be
Mm.
appreciative of that feeling.
Well, I think that's when you see bands that have been around a long time, they kind of go through whether they're big, huge, small, whatever, they go through the motions. Hey, we're going to go to a show Friday night at the same old bar we always play it at. And that band you've seen us with 100 times, they're opening up. And the same people are going to stand there. And sometimes it's like, they're comfortable with that. And if they're comfortable with that, that's great. Somebody once told me, you go to rehearsal, some people go golfing or they play cards or they go to the bar. This is just what we do. We do it for free. So I think you need to find the fun in it. And if it gets to the point where you are punching a clock, we're going to go play the same club again, doing the same thing, you kind of have to reevaluate, I think, and go, what's going on here? Was this fun? Because I'm not making any money. So if it's not fun and we're not making any money, I'm just loading stuff into a car, driving to a third location.
I think we're creatures of habit, and I think that it's easy for people in this realm. It's like once we find our people, I think we get kind of convinced that those are our people.
Yes.
So these are the
Yeah.
bands that we could play with. These are the venues that we like. Oh, I know that if I email this venue, they're actually going to get back to me,
Yeah.
because a lot of venues won't get back to you
Mhm.
because
Who are you?
yeah,
Yeah.
stop getting 19-year-old idiots from Point Park to do your social fucking media management
Boom.
and your email
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
They don't fucking answer emails. They don't care.
Yeah.
Point Park is cursed. All these students. Why am I talking? I'm talking.
I like this. It's
I'm
real
talking
talk.
hyper specific about one person and blaming the entire scene on it.
I'm here for
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know who you are. But
They done
well,
wrong.
no, but
Jim.
no, I get it. It's like I'm making too many jokes today, but getting back to, it's just easy. You get into that routine of
Yeah.
things, and I think that for a lot of people, it's just like we need to do something, so let's just do this again.
Yeah.
And maybe to them it feels cool, but it's like for me as an outsider, there's some bands that I see, and it's like every time I see a show flyer for them, it's like again,
Yeah.
like it's in
Oh,
my head.
yeah.
It's like you're doing the same thing again. Why do I care?
Well, like the best lineups I saw in years was before Eddie Van Halen died. Van Halen went out on the road with Kool and the Gang as their opener, and people were like, "That's crazy. Why would they do that?" I was like, "That makes me want to go see the show because I don't want to hear a Van Halen ripoff band opening up for Van Halen. Kool and the Gang have nothing to do with Van Halen. That's a great show. That can be a great show. It could also be a great show if Alice in Chains open up for Van Halen and both had two guitar play. But you got to shake it up."
Sure.
Well, what we're doing, I think, this year, we've already booked through November, and I think we're going to take, we're taking August and for now, December off. But we've got 2 shows in Greensburg. And, I think again, this is another post-pandemic thing where it's like really making an effort to get just outside the city limits of Pittsburgh. And Greensburg is a satellite town to Pittsburgh. But I feel like we're doing something reasonably productive. Like we're playing at Green Beacon for the first time next month.
Hell yeah.
Uh,
Shout outs to the Beacon.
Yeah,
Mhm.
great play. I've played there before. Wonderful. I'm excited to do it. We played there once earlier this. We played at Mr. Toad's at Greensburg earlier this year. They're going to be playing there for Halloween weekend this year, and then in between is a couple of Pittsburgh shows. So we don't want to like be a band that plays out Pittsburgh once every 3 to 4 weeks. All the time.
Yeah, I mean,
you definitely
Well, that's how you get 5 people to show.
That is how you get 5 people to show that. And then, if I were to aspire to anything next year, it would be get on the circuit that's happening between here and Youngstown, get down to Wheeling because there's a venue in Wheeling now, get down to Morgantown, and just spokes on the wheel and just go with it, And if that means that we play Pittsburgh every 2 or 3 months instead, fine with me. And we can make those shows really count when we do.
Yeah,
And,
less is more.
Yes.
Just don't do anything, and it'll be great.
That'll be fine. But that, I mean, if that sounds like goals, it's just more of managing expectations for ourselves and what we think would work.
Well, no, I think that I feel like there's like you got that blah, 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 blah.
That's
You
all,
get
folks.
into that's all, folks. We're done. No, you get into sometimes it's just like cool to like go out for a walk or to go out for a drive.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I feel like that's kind of like we're just cruising.
Yeah.
We might stop here and do something. We might stop there.
It's like what I did in Millville. I walked around. I checked it out.
But I mean, you can set minor goals. I mean, it's necessary.
It is. Yes.
You got to schedule studio time and things like that
Those
if you want to
things,
record.
yes. But in terms of like, we need to be here, pulling in XYZ, whatever.
I've done all that shit,
Not doing
and it's tough. I don't like it.
The one thing about pulling crowds that I've noticed post-pandemic with our shows is a bunch of different venues in town are doing this now where they close up
Selling chicken fingers.
Well, they sell chicken fingers. They have an excellent variety of sauces, but they also close up shop around midnight. So before the pandemic, you play these shows where there's always some band that has to go on at 12:45, and there is not a living soul there.
Punk time.
Yeah. And even though it would always fail, there's nobody here. You're not selling any beer. They would always insist, I want a band playing until 2. And I think the pandemic changed things in that regard, where it's like we're advertising shows as we go on at 7, there's 2 bands, and you're at home in bed at 11:30 at night. And that's the reaction we're getting of like, holy cow, I've been waiting for that type of stuff. And it's like, how is that rocket science?
The best local show that Grey Walker has done in a very long time, with the exception of Millville Music Fest, because that was dope.
Yeah.
But we did a show. It was on a Sunday,
right,
at the Shred Shed.
Mm-hmm.
We opened doors
Shred.
at 4:00.
I love
Yeah.
that.
3 bands. We played last. I was packing up merch and loading my car at 8:45.
That's great.
That's good.
See, people like to
That's
party in
normal.
the afternoon.
Yeah, and like
Yeah.
like a lot of people came out. Like
Yeah.
it was fucking.
It's like a late matinee.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
tight. Like they're like my friend Rick was there. He's like, yeah, I was out with my buddy. We were riding bikes and we were just like, yeah, let's go to the show. Like
Mhm.
I think we need to think a little bit differently. And like I like do my day job is I production manage a DJ company and I do a bunch of shows all over the country. And like that's happening so much too, where there's like a lot of markets now where we're doing dance parties and they end at like 11.
Yeah.
But then you're still New York City where it's like, oh, you're starting at midnight and going till 3 a.m. So
Yeah.
those markets do exist, but Pittsburgh ain't one of them, baby.
No.
All right.
I think we've all played shows and been the last band on a slot.
yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
just-
The whole like, actually, can we switch? Can you go last? Can we go for
Horrible.
that thing?
Well,
Well, we always had the
I don't
joke.
have to deal with that now.
The Pittsburgh headlining slot is always the middle band.
yeah.
The first band's the opener. The last band sucks. It's the middle band that gets
that's the thing is
the
like,
fortune and glory. It's true.
I get it. I don't. It's like I don't even like. Whenever we get asked to play shows now, it's always like, what time are doors? How many bands are playing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I don't even care who's playing.
Yeah.
But it's like I just need to know those 2 things. So I
Yeah.
already know we're probably going to get asked to play last.
Mhm.
Always. That's fine. But it's like if doors are at 8:00 and it's a Thursday, you can eat my butt.
I
It
always,
happened.
I love the stories that musicians cook up, and I've heard a million of them. Of all right, here's the set. This is this band first, that band first, that band first, and then you see somebody just kind of like walking toward you. You're like, oh, here we go. My babysitter died on the way to our house. We got another
Oh, sure.
babysitter,
Yeah.
but she got kidnapped. So we have to play. I've heard every story. And then I even caught a band once the drummer was driving around the block because the moment they got there, they'd have to play the show. They didn't want to play first. So they're literally on a cell phone like, just keep going, bro. Keep going. Keep going. And I looked out and I could see that.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, what are you guys doing? Oh, well, he's in surgery. Yeah. Like, well, tell Dr. So-and-so to get his ass here.
Bro, Just
Wow.
play the fucking
That was
show.
Howlers.
Like, I
Yeah.
don't care about playing
I think
first.
Mary Jo put her fist up.
Yeah,
and
it's just like, it doesn't fucking matter. Like, just play the fucking show.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, I mean, but there's people that do shit like that. And it's just one of those things where people do weird things like that. And it's just like, okay, well, you know what? I play this band again.
I kind of
That's
love when that happens, though, because we'll rearrange the thing. We'll go first, and we take special pride then in blowing them off the stage. Like,
Sure.
you want us to go first? Sit down, buckle up. We're going to show you how it goes. And then they're like, no, probably shouldn't have done that.
You're going to say something.
Nah, I'm gonna shut up. On a recent show that happened.
Well, you know
Well, I
what?
don't want to bring that up.
But you know what? Thursday night show. That was the night that
It was
the
like-
town flooded.
Yeah, it was
Yeah, that was crazy.
raining.
There was Matthew Sweet going on at the winery.
no, which was not a great show.
but no, you know what?
Really?
You know what? We sold a record. And people were like, I never heard you before. That was
Yep.
cool. The 10 people, I don't know how many people were there. I don't remember. It didn't matter how many people were there, but it was just a Thursday night. The weather was treacherous and dangerous. The lineup got shifted.
Yep.
It was weird.
Yeah,
And we
I mean,
played, and people were like, hey, never seen you before. That was cool.
Yeah.
Like, mission
That's all-
accomplished.
that's all we needed.
That's
Yeah.
all you needed. And, they cared enough to come up to us. They didn't know us,
Yep.
What's your name? How long you been around? Do you have anything, That's all you need.
Yeah, fresh faces at a show,
Yeah.
dancing, getting down.
Yeah.
That's the best.
But I've definitely been the person. I had a job where I worked like 2 a.m, and somehow that was always when I was in Neighbors, we get shows at Howlers, and it's like Joe has to go first, and I'd literally play at 11 o'clock and then drive to work. And you sitting there
that's
for 8,
horrible.
9 hours, something or overtime, smelling of cigarettes and feeling like, I bet every other band on the bill hates me, and I'm sorry, there's nothing I can do about it. So I try to make allowances for that, because I was there at one point in my life where it's I was in this band that I cared a lot about, and I wanted to play all the shows we could.
Yeah.
But you've got to definitely, you just have to kind of use discretion.
Well, I
on
mean,
that.
I think that, that's the thing. And you also just need to have fucking empathy for other adults.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If there's a bunch of bands with some young teenagers doing this shit, it's go fuck yourselves, get it together. You don't have a life yet. But
Yes.
for people like us, it's oh, okay, I get it.
I want to hear what they have to say.
I was at fucking Millvale for what, God, from 9 a.m. until 2:30 in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
I woke up the next day and just stood in the shower for 30 minutes. Just oh my God, it was just it's
Well, I do think if I say anything remotely controversial, don't take the show if there's any doubt that you can actually be there on time. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If there's any doubt, if you think it might be a thing where I think we can make it work, then just don't do it.
Sure.
Just you take the show if you can do it and it's on your calendar, and barring family emergency or something, because things do happen.
Yeah.
Car accidents, whatnot. And my other band dealt with something like that recently, and we, worked it out and it was fine. No, it was nobody's fault. But I don't know. That's just getting off onto a whole tangent.
yeah, no.
I love music. Music's wonderful.
Yes.
I love playing a band. I love playing a band with all the good stuff and all the difficult stuff. It's beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, that there's always, it's really easy to harp on all of the negative things of being in a band, but I think it's important to approach those things with what is bad about this? What could we do to be better about it?
Yeah. I'll tell you what.
Problem solving.
I'm kind of a pessimist. It's just my nature. And
It's all that punk rock you listen
it is
to.
all that punk rock. But I do my best to sort of temper that, particularly when we're practicing and things. And it's everybody else's, the vibes are so good. It's you know what? Just got a good band. Don't don't screw it up. Like, just keep your mouth shut or think before you say things. You know, has there been times where it's like I'm not sure about this thing for these reasons, and I don't know, and you know, one of them will pop up like, "What'd you think about this?" And it's like, "Okay, you're right. Thank you for politely telling me to, you know, go take a walk. You know, get out of my own way."
And all four of us are human. We've all been there at any given time. And I think a good band can kind of pull up any, you know, if you're feeling down, we're going to make it work for you. And vice versa for me as well. Because, you know, that just happens. But you can't let it get
no.
Sometimes you lose sight of the big picture.
It's easy because we're human, you know. But I will say, and I'm getting a little sentimental, but you know, we got everything dialed in at Millvale. I was just like, we're ready. Everybody here's ready. We're good. This band's awesome. You know what I mean? Like that. And I don't mean just like Creedmoors, like all four. I just mean the other folks in this band are awesome. This is going to be great. So here we go. Close your eyes and hit the gas. Right?
Yeah, totally.
So,
hey, we both knocked over drinks.
All right.
Fist bump.
That's what we did before we played. Fist bump. Let's do this. You know?
Hell yeah.
So
well, that's great.
yes.
I do have a question. It's an important question. I've been staring at your shirt all night.
Mine?
Yes.
Yeah.
Is Brian May playing a Stratocaster in that picture?
Okay. History. Can I do a history lesson?
Yes.
This is when they were it says another one bites the dust.
Yeah.
This is when they were shooting the Play the Game video, and there's a scene where Freddie grabs Brian's guitar and they toss it back and forth. And they have a little tussle. And Brian,
he's not using his good guitar.
He's not using the one he built. He's using a Strat copy. So this is the McQueen nerd moment.
But it was a Buddy Holly Strat.
It's not even a real Strat. It was a copy.
It was number 12.
Yeah. But
yeah, I know. Yeah. I've been staring at it going, he doesn't play a Strat. What the hell's going on?
Yeah.
Get Brian. Get the Reverend Dr. Sir Brian May on the phone.
The astro physicist. Yeah. Queen are great. That's all I need to say.
That's right.
Yeah.
He's an astrologer.
Yes.
You can tell the Capricorn from Pisces.
I don't know.
Sorry, Dr. May.
I don't know. Okay.
He's going to watch this and get pissed off.
He's going to watch it. I'm going to send it to him.
Absolutely.
I love your 3D stereography, sir.
Yes.
Well,
yes.
As a song can be a roller coaster with ups and downs and twists and turns, so can be a podcast.
Yes.
With that being said, I think we are rounding the station, my friends, on today's conversation. So, Creedmoors, thank you for being here. I think we've had a lovely chat about, I don't know,
stuff.
Still doing it, being here, doing it, writing songs with our friends, having fun, chilling, playing shows.
Hey, Joe, where can we find that EP?
I was going to get there. Thanks for taking over my phone. No, you're fine. That's great.
Brian, would you like to ask me where can I find the EP?
Actually, no, I don't care anymore.
Oh, I've ruined it.
No, where can we find it, Joe?
It's creedmoors.bandcamp.com. You can find us on, the Insta, the Facebook. We're on Spotify, all the streaming stuff. It's Creedmoors, Creedmoors. No the. We don't like definite articles. No. Just Creedmoors. So that's it.
Very cool. Well, thank you all for being here. I do appreciate you all making the time. Very cool.
Thank you.
Of course.
Yes.
And that has been a episode of the podcast. So, yes, that is all, folks. Thanks so much for being here one more time. Creedmoors. Clap.
Yeah.
I'll be back again next week with another episode. Same time, same place, same channel. You know the drill. My name is Brian Sykes House. Start the Beat is the podcast. 2024 is the year. And until next time, take care of yourselves. Take care of the people around you. Peace out. We did it. That was a podcast. Woo!
Right.
It's a healthy 90 minutes.
Yeah, wow.